He's a one-of-a-kind artist who's learned how to leave his mark. And he's talking this morning with our Faith Salie.
What do you say when people ask you what you do?
If I say wood carver, lots of people think I'm a chainsaw carver or that I carve little Santa Clauses or something.
Are you an artist?
I'm a sculptor, put it that way.
On a rainy day, in his barn in the rural hamlet of Barneveld in upstate New York, David Esterly is at work on one of his creations.
In every composition, there's always a moment of panic about 3/4 of the way through.
It's an 18th century style rack of the kind that used to hold letters.
It's like your inbox, or it's like anything you'd use to save not only correspondence, but just keepsakes. I love the contrast between the grid formed by the straps. It's abstract, universal, mathematical. Also, it's a portrait of a person by the person's possessions.
This is what Esterly imagines Thomas Jefferson's letter rack might have looked like. It has a necklace sent back by explorers Lewis and Clark, whom he dispatched to America's wild Northwest Territory. It's a portrait of a president, delicately preserved in pale white wood, linden wood, to be exact.
How long does it take you to do something like one of these feathers?
I never answer questions like that, sorry.
Really?
Yeah, really.
Why is this such a closely guarded secret?
It's not a secret, it's just that I can't think in those terms. I mean, I then become very depressed about it.
Let's just say the sculptures take months, even years. They can sell for well over 6 figures, and each work is commissioned by private collectors. All this from a man who never studied carving formally. In fact, he owes his illustrious career to a chance encounter while studying literature in London.
I was walking down Piccadilly with a woman who would later become my wife when she suddenly grabbed me by the arm and said, "Let's go see Grinling Gibbons." I thought it might have been a former boyfriend, so I was sort of on alert. But in fact, she steered me into a beautiful church from the 1680s. And I looked up and there was this extraordinary tangle of vegetation carved in wood. Grinling Gibbons turned out to be the greatest British wood carver.
Utterly taken with Gibbons' work, Esterly spent 8 years in an English cottage teaching himself to carve. Gibbons, he says, haunted him.
You know, he was always coming into my workshop late at night and saying, you know, look the way I do it better than you do, and sort of whispering over my shoulder.
And then
officials speculated the fire was sparked by a candle.
Fate stepped in. In 1986, a fire in the Royal Palace of Hampton Court destroyed some of Gibbons' masterpieces. Esterly was chosen to restore and even replace several of the master's creations.
And it was when I reached that moment at Hampton Court that I was, oddly enough, most able to identify with what Gibbons was doing and free myself from him.
Have you ever done a self-portrait? I'm thinking about how intense your mustache would be.
That's my idea of hell. I'm profoundly uninterested in myself. I've taken refuge in my work, and that's where I want to be found.
Unfortunately, that refuge is now being taken away from David Esterly. It was during our time together that Esterly says he first noticed symptoms of what was later diagnosed as ALS, also known as Lou Gehrig's disease.
Walking up the ramp to this house, I had felt strange pains in my midriff. I noticed that words were not being formed with the unconscious ease that we normally form words.
In a follow-up interview, he asked not to appear on camera.
You know, nobody should feel sorry for me. I'm pretty old. I led a very interesting life, and you gotta die of something.
With the help of assistants, he has just completed a commission for Bentonville, Arkansas's Crystal Bridges Museum of American Art. David Esterly at age 74, has finished his final work.
I've lived my life by the connection between brain and hand, and now I'm ending it by precisely that connection being snatched away from me. So, to me, there's something richly meaningful about that.